It's probably the first movie I saw where at the very end I just went, sheesh, this movie throws a lot at you. This is a lot to take in. And, brother, this is a James Gunn film, all right. And there's so much to unpack. So if you see the trailers for this, or just the teaser, I should say, where he crashes into the snow and there comes Crypto dragging him, to the Fortress of Solitude, all that, that's how the movie starts. This is not an origin story. You have to know who Superman is. You have to know who Lois Lane is. You have to know where he came from. They give you a little text in the beginning, kind of like a Star Wars scroll, which is not even badly written. It's a little clever the way they map out the time there, the way it's written. And there are a lot of things in this that are very cleverly written, but you have to go in knowing that even though this movie is called Superman, I'm calling it Superman 25 because I already have a hard enough time calling Batman 89 because, there's so many Batman movies. Not really. There's only one called Batman, but it has to be 89 because, we have a Ghostbusters and a Ghostbusters 2016. Well, again, you don't call it the original the year it came out because that's the original. Same thing with me. This is clearly not as good as the original. Clearly. So I think it's kind of ballsy to call it Superman. Regardless, my thoughts on Superman 25, I will admit, are mostly positive. I do end up ultimately liking this movie. But it is messy, yet it is a spectacle. It's a messy spectacle. This has some stuff in it that it is too much, but it is still that fun James Gunn writing. There is still, for the most part, that heart, that good acting, good ideas, and that is part of what we enjoy about James Gunn, is that he will throw things at you constantly, and he'll mix tones, and most of the time the tones work okay. There's a couple things in this movie where, for the most part, I can narrow it down to only 2 or 3 things that are kind of throughout it, but, aren't ruining it for me. There is one thing that borderline almost makes me not want to recommend it because I so didn't like this. And I won't spoil it, but literally all I have to do is say the characters' names. And if you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's not a character, it's like Wonder Woman's in the movie or something like that. That'd be a spoiler. No, they're characters you would know would be in this movie. They're in almost every Superman movie. So yes, so I will get to that, but it is such a major thing for me. It's such a personal thing for me that I'm going to put it to the side for now. I'm just going to talk about the rest of the film as is, because I think to some that'll be almost like a minor thing, but to me it was really kind of a major thing. But let me just talk about the rest of the movie. And what I thought of it. Like I say, it does throw you right in the middle of it. It's funny that Fantastic Four is also coming out soon, because based on those trailers, this has a very similar feel to it. My guess is this is going to have more bite to it than Fantastic Four. Not that Fantastic Four looks bad or that there won't be any dark moments in it, but again, it's James Gunn. He likes to balance campy and goofy and silly with big and epic, but also really mean and menacing and dark and difficult stuff. So this is a movie that, like I said, just already opens with Superman's a thing. There's other superhumans on this planet, and they're already going around. It does have some of that humor of, we're the Justice Gang. Oh, that's not what we're called. It's a work in progress. There's some of those jokes, but they're not as bad as, I don't know, a lot of people like the humor in Thunderbolts. I didn't, but it's not quite as bad as that. And even Thunderbolts have really good acting. And the same thing here. Most of the acting is really, really good. And I say about half the humor works. When it doesn't, it isn't super painful, but one of the big issues with me in this film, again, I can kind of boil it down to probably about 2 things. One is that tonally it does go back and forth a lot. And again, James Gunn is usually pretty good at balancing that. And it's not constantly, it's not awful, but it's enough where I do question why characters are doing certain things if they did something very different earlier. For example, this goes so over the top the other direction to where Superman wants to save people that they do on purpose make it comical. He literally saves a squirrel at one point, and that was like one of the biggest laughs I got in the movie. And everything, the people, what about the people? We didn't have to destroy that monster. We could have found a ethical way to maybe put him in a galactic zoo, and if we had to euthanize him, we could do it in a more ethical way. Like, it's played up for laughs, and it's good. That's the core of the character. I think that makes sense. But then you'll have a scene later where Superman is kind of on the outs with the city and the other super people and everything. And you see him, you've probably seen this still of him like taking off his boot while this monster is attacking the city. I always thought he was getting his boot on to go fight him. That's not what that is. He comes in and he's talking to somebody while this fight is going on. And the person's like, aren't you going to do something about that? It's like, oh, the other superhumans guy, that's pretty nothing. And as they're having this serious conversation, this fight is going on, which, it's cute. It's kind of funny seeing this stuff happen in the background. But I'm thinking to myself, this guy saved a squirrel. He saved a freaking squirrel from, getting squashed. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy doesn't have it so good together. He would know, oh yeah, that's not going to hurt him. But this is a giant monster over the city. And I know you're not supposed to take it literally. This is all supposed to be exaggerated and silly and over the top. And when it's supposed to be serious, it'll be super serious. And when it's supposed to be silly, it'll be super silly. You're not supposed to always act like that's in the same world, or it's a very flexible reality. But the character motivations, I feel like Superman, even if he knows they probably have it, even if he's on the outs with them, he would still go and stop that thing. So there's some moments like that, but overwhelmingly, again, they really try to course change from Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, where he just goes ridiculously out of his way to save everybody. Like I said, to campy extremes, which is fun, which is fine. So the tonally going back and forth with that is definitely an issue and dig in the way with me. And I think, so there's that. And then the other thing, which I definitely said before, even though I don't mind having a lot in a Superman movie, because we have had so many origin stories, and I don't envy James Gunn or anyone tackling this movie to restart, DC movies again, this DC universe. I don't know what you would do. Maybe this is the closest you can get, but it really is too damn much. There are so many scenes where I kept going, wait, I forgot that was the character. That person's doing something now. Oh, wait a minute. Lois can fly a UFO now? When did that happen? Wait, why did they all get in the UFO? Where are they going again? What are they hoping to do? There's so many scenes like that, but it still wasn't quite ruining it for me because I'm like, well, I still like these people enough. The visual spectacle of this is really, really something because this is, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the last movie I saw, like, last Hollywood movie where the whole thing was shot in IMAX. I'm not gonna act like it was years or anything. Like, I think one of the Avatars were, and maybe they both were, but, it's been a while, and something this movie does that I think for some might be distracting, but I really liked it, though I don't know if I'm going to like it when it comes to the small screen, is that, do you remember in Guardians 3, the scene where they have a really long fight, and it's all in one shot? I'm sure they have edits, whatever, but they shoot it like it's all in one shot, and it's this extreme fisheye lens shot that's going in between everybody and really having fun. I'm really not kidding when I say 90% of the action sequences are that. On IMAX, that looks really good, and surprisingly, it did not get tiring for me. I ate it up most of the time. There's one time where I said, I think it doesn't work because I'm too used to it, and it was a scene where Mr. Terrific is in this movie. I never even heard of that guy before, but I'll remember him after this movie. Just the design in general. He's got a giant T over his face. He's kind of a fun character, but he takes out these, these guards, these robots, all these people, while Lois is stuck in this force field. And the whole thing is shot from Lois's point of view, looking around this force field done in this one shot. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if I didn't see this done a million times, I would find this hilarious. But because that was like the 5th time we saw it, that was the only time where I'm like, I'm not getting into this. Oh, is this where it loses me? Is this where I'm finally gonna say I don't get into this action sequence? And there's another scene where, again, it goes so delightfully over the top, where he's in a lava pit fighting robots while also holding a baby. Just see how he gets to this point. And the movie is self-aware and it's having fun. And moments like that don't wink too hard at you. He's really trying to save this stupid alien baby. And that's another moment. Well, while I describe it's very funny, any scene in this movie is very entertaining on its own. I feel like this movie is designed to be a YouTube clip movie, because any couple of minutes it's gonna get like millions of views on YouTube. Like, I guarantee it's going to. It just seems designed to, be that way. But that was only her action sequence where I'm like, I'm just kind of done with this style. But then when it gets back to flying around the city, especially, looks so good. And I think just having a film, I've talked about this before, where the aspect ratio does not keep changing. You don't have the bars suddenly there, then they're gone, then they're there, then they're gone. Even when they've worked with it very well in like How to Train Your Dragon, or I guess Sinners did this as well, where the bars will slowly move away and then slowly come back, and they'll track it with the camera, which is so brilliant. But obviously, if you can avoid that and you can just shoot it all in IMAX, which I do get the challenges of that, certainly, and it is appreciated in a film like this, it's very, very impressive. Was Dune shot entirely? Dune might have been. I can't remember. But I also remember how visually dazzling that was. So just on a big screen, on a big IMAX screen, it is a gorgeous film to look at. This just looks so good, and I was really amazed that the fisheye lens action did not get old for me. And maybe he did find just enough variety of angles with that lens, or maybe just the fight, the powers and the moves and everything were impressive enough, but it did not get old for me. I don't know if that's going to be the same when it comes to the smaller screen, when it comes to physical media or streaming or whatever. So I'm very curious about that. In terms of the acting, almost all of it is really good. There is a okay performance I have, which I'm so sad to say, the guy who plays, let me look him up, because I do have, I have IMDb open, because you know me, I'm terrible with names. David Corenswet, I think is how you say his name. Apologies if not. He's all right. They're going for something a hint different, which is not a bad idea. It's hard to say anything in this is a bad idea necessarily, in theory. They're going much more for the everyman with him. And Superman, yes, is supposed to be the everyman, but he's the everyman, if he was a Boy Scout, he's the everyman of the 40s, a kind of thing, and he always kind of represented that. And sometimes they update him usually pretty well. So when I think of Superman, like, that is Superman, that it's just never going to get out of my head. And it's funny because it's the same thing with Batman. I think of the first movie, I think of, the Michael Keaton Batman, I think of the Christopher Reeve Superman, and I think of the animated series. I think of the Kevin Conroy Batman, and then, I don't know his name, I'm so sorry, but the guy who voices Superman in the Superman animated series, like, that's them. When I think of the voice, when I think of how they act and respond to that, like, that is the image for me. So I have a very clear mindset of how I see both these characters, even though I'm much more of a Batman guy. And this definitely clashed with that a little bit, but I definitely see what they're going for, where they're going for, he hasn't been there super long. I think they're trying to play him like he's a little younger. Like, I think he's supposed to be 30, but he plays it a little bit more like mid-20s or maybe late 20s at the latest. And it's all right. It's not bad. It's still, even in something like Man of Steel, which I didn't like, I did like, oh no. How am I forgetting his name? Now I gotta type in Man of Steel. This is brain fogging at the absolute worst, because I know people are going to kill me if I don't get Henry Cavill. the hell's wrong with me? Henry Cavill. I knew that even before I had to look it up. Because I do really like him as Superman. Even though I think the movies he was in wasn't very good, I thought he really did bring this presence. And he brought this sense of authority, certainly. I think that's maybe what's missing from this Superman. But you could argue that's supposed to grow with more movies. So he's all right. And then the other performance, and I'm probably going to be a minority on this, is when these two actors were announced, when Rachel Brosnahan, I think is how you say her name, Mrs. Maisel, sorry, that's why I always call her, and then Nicholas Hoult was announced as Lex Luthor. Both of those I said, chef's kiss, oh my god, those are perfect, and I started to get in my head, but are they too perfect? Because with, I watch Miss Maisel. I really like this show. It's not perfect, but I think it's a good show. And she's wonderful in it. And I was thinking to myself, but boy, that show is definitely like that time period mixed with sitcom fantasy. It's clearly combining those two. And so it's very over the top. You know, she's very much talking like this and going over here. What are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. And she does it great, but that works for that world. So there was a part of me that was like, boy, is she going to be okay as Lois Lane? Is this going to mix, or is that going to be too big? And then Nicholas Hoult, I was like, oh, and he can play that in his sleep. Lex Luthor, perfect. It doesn't even have to think about it. I was completely flipped around. She just nails Lois Lane. I mean, like, probably the best Lois Lane I've seen since... see, now I'm blanking on her name too. I'm so sorry. It's been a long day. The animated series, Lois Lane. Dana Delaney. And before that, I say again, probably the one from the Christopher Reeve Superman. Like, those are the ones I think of when I think of Lois Lane. And now it's like, I do think of this one. This one just was so great. I do wish there was more with her and Clark. They do have some stuff. I'm not gonna act like there's nothing, but I do feel like there need to be more. And Nicholas Hoult, I'm so sorry. Again, I think I'm going to be the minority on this. I didn't like him in this. And he's not awful. He's not, like, doing a bad job necessarily. I don't even blame him. I blame James Gunn because, by God, this just has the shouty, bratty villain from Guardians 3 that I know everyone says is the perfect everything, but I could not get it. You really like the villain from that movie? Okay, if you like the villain from that movie, my God, you're going to love Nicholas Hoult in this. Nicholas Hoult is better than the villain in that movie, but I don't know. He plays it more like a billionaire crazy brat. He plays it more like Rome from Succession, the one that Culkin plays, and which is fine in that show. But, man, for Lex Luthor, and you can do different stuff with Lex Luthor. You see how differently they handled him in, the original Superman and with Gene Hackman, and very, very different, but still has this poise, this grace, this sophistication, even though he can be very, very silly and even sometimes zany. And this one, there just is not that sophistication. Once in a while, you get a little bit of it, and I feel like you needed a lot more. This character definitely did not read that saying that says powerful men don't need to yell, because, like, especially in the last there, he is just screaming everything, and I don't know why Gunn thinks that's, like, really intimidating and really interesting in a villain. Like, yes, you can have that sometimes, but again, it makes them look, childish and weak. And again, you can use that for comedy, certainly, or you save it for when someone really is finally thrown off their game, but he just does it so much. And even when he doesn't, there's just this, I get what I want, I'm very, I want this, and he just plays it very bratty, but not totally devoid of charm. You can tell there is an intelligence there. You can tell he's thinking 20 steps ahead and everything. Maybe there's a part of me, you could argue, I just already see enough of that in real life. And maybe there is an element of this movie that's trying to mimic a lot of real life that I just go, man, that's... But why is that fun? Yes, I want a mix of the two. I want a mix of real life, but I want a mix of a comic book as well. And there definitely is a lot of comic book fantasy in this. This is just a totally engulfed comic book film. Pros and cons. Like I said, just starts off in the middle. This feels like a second film. It doesn't feel like the first film, even if you know the character or don't know the characters. But it is a very impressive second film. Like I said, you do get sucked into this world and these characters that are mostly played very, very well. So I don't necessarily blame Nicholas Hoult on that. I think this is definitely a direction thing. This is just something maybe we gotta get used to with his villains now, and that's a shame. I think he can write very interesting villains and direct them well, but I just thought after a while, I just got so done with it. I was so there are some speeches in here that aren't necessarily bad, but this is definitely a speech movie where a lot of characters will talk about what they think about, so-and-so and not let their action. It's funny because there is a speech about letting your actions do the talking while they're talking a lot about that. And they're not even bad speeches. And maybe I shouldn't make it sound like that's the whole movie, because that's not true. But I think it's a mix of all the speeches and the exposition of it and all the science babble. Now we're going here, now we're going there, now we're going this place, now we're doing that. Which, again, is very comic booky. So I feel like, a lot of that is probably going to go a long way for a lot of people. But for me, again, I do want something different. I'm glad it does do some things that are different, but when I think of Superman, when I think of stuff that sticks, I think of him at the funeral of his father saying all those powers and I couldn't save him. Like how many, all those powers and I couldn't save him. 8 words. Beautiful, huge, haunting, epic. It's everything. And then just the music and the cinematography, everything else explains everything to you. You don't need everything spelled out. And again, not to act like every line is a speech or anything like that, but they do over-explain a lot of things. And the irony of that is when you do that, then you do have scenes where I'm like, well, wait a minute, if he saved a squirrel, why isn't he going to save that, stop that alien from attacking that city there? Because when you do over-explain so much, then you do go, well, you do read more into it, because you create this world that's supposed to be very vague, and you're supposed to bring sort of your own interpretation of it, some less than others, but, certainly something that we can all kind of universally see and experience. But then when they're trying to be very direct, we are saying this, you bring that mindset to everything else, and I don't always think that's the best, even if it is written well. Like I said, there is a scene near the end where Lex is on, speech 20 or whatever, and Superman makes a speech. He doesn't make many speeches in this. I think they know he shouldn't, do that too much. But when he does, it's a good speech, and it's interesting. It definitely spells out everything. But it is something where I'm like, man, for all of that, I feel like there could have just been a few more quiet moments, a few moments of just people sitting there and taking stuff in. And not to say there's none, but I do feel like there needed to be more. But they constantly had to get to the next thing and the next thing after that. And there is one moment where I finally said, that is too much, because most of the stuff going on, like I said, it is a lot, but I was with it enough. Wait, why did that person do that? Whatever. I'm with it. And it's a reveal. I won't give anything away, but it's a reveal about, I don't know what you call them, the foot soldiers, the Ursa and Nan of the group, the other super bad humans going after them. They have a surprise about one of them, and literally when they reveal, I just went, oh, come on. 'Cause you can do this, but you can't do it in the last few minutes of the movie. And there's so many things in this movie where I'm like, man, just pick 2 or 3 of these. Don't throw all 10 in there. And that's what I felt like with this reveal. I was just like, well, I know they're not going to be able to do anything with this. And they really don't. They have some cool fights with it, but that's about it. But I do totally acknowledge that this is a film most likely for, pardon the pun, super fans of Superman who have not only grown up reading the comics, but are still reading the comics, know a lot of Superman stories, have seen Superman on the big screen today, have seen everything Superman, have just engulfed all of it. I feel like this movie is kind of for them. That's not to say that they're not going to do some things differently and they're not going to take some liberties, but it's definitely something where it's like, I can see kids leaving this thing, Superman did this, and then this character showed up, and then they went here, and then they went there, and then this happened, and then they talked about this, and then this thing went over there, and it really is truly a comic book movie. For me, I feel like I know I've talked about these movies a lot before, but the Spider-Verse movies did this a lot better. It brought me more into that world. I cared so much more about the characters and their dilemmas, and it surprised me, and I didn't know where it was going to go. And I did like the visual style a little bit more, but it has an advantage. It's animation. But that doesn't mean this is bad. It just means that, or clever. There are a lot of clever things about this. There's so many little, not just callbacks because they're Easter eggs, but callbacks because, wow, this is interesting to this character and how this character lives in this world with the other superhumans and even some other super family members that come in later. And Crypto actually does have a lot to do in this, actually does have a big part. I know it sounds strange, but I kind of like that, even though I don't know how you get around it. I don't care for the effect of him. It never looks like he's there. He always looks CG. I don't know how you get around that. They just don't have dogs and cats down in CG. But what am I going to say? No, get a real dog and have him wear a cape and fly around. How are you going to get around that? I don't know. But it is something where, to me, it was a little distracting. But I am glad they gave him a pretty big part in it. Sometimes I feel like he has a bigger role than Lois, honestly. And I do like the other superhumans in this have enough of a personality where I feel like I understand them, and their powers are cool, and the way they use their powers isn't just, oh, Green Lantern just does Green Lantern stuff. No, it's very specific to this person, to this particular Lantern. Hawk Girl definitely has a very clear personality and some cool moves with, like, she has like a screech. That's really, really cool. And same thing with Mr. Terrific, who gets a lot of screen time in this. He has a very clear personality, and his powers are really neat. And it's a world I wouldn't mind exploring more, even though I feel like we need another movie before it to explore it. So overall, the movie is good. I do recommend it just on the spectacle of it. But do keep in mind, if you do not know who Superman is, or you've only seen like maybe the first Superman movie or the first handful or something like that, this does not hold your hand. It will explain things, but it does not go into it with the mindset of, if you've never heard of Superman, we'll set you up. We'll explain everything. They say it, but they definitely don't let you, they don't allow you to let things sink in, like even for a second. But again, you could totally argue that's comic book movies, and this one's trying to totally throw you into this world of a live action comic book. I mean, just, again, you could argue pros and cons of that, but all right, that is comics. You could say, yeah, that's kind of how it works. The same way something like the X-Men animated show did, or X-Men 97. Again, lots of information thrown at you. And as things we usually see, they don't take much time to rest, but that's also part of the charm. So I could totally see people either not getting into that. If you see the trailers really are a good sum up of what this movie is. And you're saying that just looks like too much. I can't. I don't think you're going to get into it. But if you're on the fence about it, like you're not sure, yes, it is very much a comic book movie with a lot of exposition, a lot going on. But they do it well. They do it just well enough where you care just enough for the people, and you do like them just enough. You are interested in how they're going to get out of these situations and what bizarre thing is going to come next and what else is this world going to introduce, like it's nothing. It just opens up with, oh, by the way, there's a pocket dimension, just portals and stuff. Anyway, back to fighting the giant monster. I mean, they just do not... They say what it is, and maybe really quick they'll explain how it got there, but it doesn't really matter. It's just one of those things where it's like in the box in the corner that says, see issue 5, kind of thing. Like a lot of the dialogue is a sum up of that, of see issue 5. So yes, I do recommend this movie. I did enjoy it overall. Let me get to the one thing that really pissed me off. And I will not spoil it, I promise. I'm not going to give away anything about what happens in this movie. I'm just going to say the characters I do not like how they handled. And that's Superman's parents. As soon as I say that, if you've seen this movie, you know exactly what I am talking about. I don't have to say anything else, and you'll know what I'm talking about. This is going to have that big an impact. bare minimum, it's going to be divisive. I don't know what people are, if they're going to be overwhelmingly like, yeah, no, I was okay with that, or they're going to be overwhelmingly against it. I see what they were trying to do, and it is something where I'm like, boy, maybe in a different story I could see this working, not with Superman. Or if they actually made this work, and that's a big, actually question mark, they would have to devote more time to it. And this element that they bring up with the parents is just done so quickly. And yes, it does have a huge impact, but it's done so quickly. I really did not believe until the last frame before the credits that it was real. What they do with the characters was a real thing going on. I just, literally, before the end credits ran, I was like, well, I wonder how they're going to explain that. I wonder what's really going on, kind of thing. And then my jaw, fell in my lap when the credits started rolling. I'm like, oh, they stuck with that. That is actually what was happening. Okay. It is something that is a risk. It is a gamble. And on the one hand, I kind of applaud that because I do want something a little different. And there is bite to it. And there is going to be discussion about it. And it is challenging. I applaud all of that. But, there's things that I feel like, at least I do, things that I want changed in a reboot, a sequel, a remake, whatever. And I want things that are different, but I acknowledge some things have to stay the same. There's some things that have to stay a certain way because that is the core, that is the heart, that is the focus, that is the origin. That is where this character comes from, and that is what helps shape this character. And there are so many versions of this being done so well, so fantastically, that when you see something like this, even though it is taking a risk, I say to myself, boy, that doesn't feel right. That feels dirty. That feels like a stain on the origin of these characters. I'm not just talking about Superman. I'm talking about the parents of Superman. It just did not sit well with me. Like I said, where I was just driving home and I'm thinking about what I think of the movie and everything, and I just kept coming back to that development. And a reason I'm bringing it up here too is that if you're watching this, maybe it'll help you sort of deal with it better maybe than I did, because just the whole movie, I was in complete denial. No, they're gonna reveal it was really something else, and it's not. So when they reveal a big surprise about the parents in this, it's real. They're not backing down. This is a real thing. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is one of those moments where I do kind of think to myself, not my Superman's parents. Not my Skywalker. There's a part of me that's almost like, I'm not going to say I get it, because I do, I have issues with Last Jedi and everything, but that was one of the things where I'm like, okay, I'm not 100% behind it, but I get it. I follow it. My mind wasn't blown, and I was like, well, yeah, this is kind of the route it was building up. This one wasn't. This is something, at least I've never seen that they've done with Superman's parents before. Maybe some diehard comic fans can point to a version or a different reality or something where it was done. And again, if you are gonna do that, if you're gonna take this big a risk on this, you can't just do it like a passing sentence and then have, Superman to really think about it and then be like, all right, well, on to 20 bajillion other things going on. There needs to be serious time dedicated to this. This doesn't have to be the only thing in the movie, but have only 2 or 3 other things going on. You can have other superheroes in it. You can have Lex Luthor trying to kill you and stuff like that, but you can't have these bajillion other side characters and side plots and exposition going on. This demands focus. This is a movie. This is something to talk about. And I can't act like the theme isn't in there, especially at the end. They try to make it clear what they're trying to say. But even when you tie it to Superman's parents on Earth, they don't get that much attention. And at the end, they really try to make it look like, yeah, this is what it was all about. And I'm like, I don't think it was. It would be if you didn't have a million other distractions. And like I said, for me, this was such a jarring change that I couldn't get behind. But I don't know if other people are going to have as big an issue with it. I guarantee you there's going to be some that agree with me. Maybe even more mad. But it definitely was something that I see what it was going for. I see what it was trying to do. And it is noble. It's noble what it's trying to accomplish by doing this with the parents. But I did not think it worked. And just thinking of all the other versions of these parents, and now thinking this is one of them, it doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. So I know that's like such a major thing that I can't go into detail, but when you see the movie, you'll know. And even with that said, even though I was really driving home, mostly thinking about that, just like, well, does the lesson override it? Does that make it okay? And I'm just like, boy, it doesn't for me. But I could be, one of the outliers on that. Maybe there will be people that either didn't think about it much, or because why? Because you got Superman laser beaming all these robots and machines and flying into space, and his Superman's dog is in the... Who cares about his parents? Might not be a thing at all. We've seen his parents a million times. We can choose from the bajillion other Superman parents out there. Or is it something that's like, that just doesn't feel appropriate. That doesn't feel right to, the legacy of these characters and this world, where Superman came from. So, but I also do get what they're trying to do with it too. It is a very noble thing they're trying to say and get across. I just didn't agree with the way they did it. So, like I said, that didn't quite ruin the movie for me, but that was probably the biggest element where I was really like, movie, did you really just do that? Like, oh, part of me is almost like, I walk, kind of thing. But, like I said, might not be a big thing for other people, or maybe a huge thing, or maybe be divisive. I'm not sure. So it's definitely going to get some reaction. I can guarantee that. So with that said, I forgot to say, thank you for the early screening. Sorry as I ripped apart this choice in the movie. But because I did get an early screening of this, and I'm always very thankful whenever I get that. And I guess what I was getting to is that at the very end, there was applause, because I think it was certainly critics, but I think some other... just regular people, regular audience members were allowed into, and at the very end there was applause, but it's definitely like a, like they were still taking in what they just saw. And I don't even know how much of it was the thing with the parents. I think a lot of it was just there was so much thrown at you. Like I said, I think the Spider-Verse movies did it better and more unique, but this one does it well, and it definitely tries to big time do a course correction from what the Man of Steel movies did. And I know a lot of people like Man of Steel. This is definitely a different animal in many respects. And I think a lot of it worked. I'll say most of it worked. Most of it did work. There were things that we're trying to do too much. The tonal shifts did go back and forth quite a bit. And like I said, the one thing that just really, really threw me off about the parents. But most of the acting was still good. Even when it's not like Nicholas Hoult. God bless him. He's such a great actor. It's just something that didn't work for me. I can see other people liking it fine. And maybe some of the things that bother me in this, it won't bother you as well. But... again, just for the spectacle, if you're gonna see it on IMAX. The whole thing is shot in IMAX, and just the action sequences and the flying around, everything, and the unique way they shoot it. I will say this, if you get to the first scene where they have a wide fisheye lens fight of them flying around, and you're like, I don't like that on IMAX, leave, just get out of the theater, because like all the action sequences are that. But I did enjoy it. There was enough that I did enjoy. Probably give it 3 out of 4. I did enjoy it. I think if you're a diehard Superman comic book fan where you're still reading them and you're obsessed with, like majority of the stories and everything, there's definitely going to be quite a bit in this you're going to enjoy and get into. I don't know what you're going to think about certain choices, but I think majority of it you're going to like. With that said, when this comes out, what did you think about it? Without going into spoilers, which I know is going to be very, very tricky. Did you think it worked altogether? Did you think It's better than 3 out of 4. It's 4 out of 4. It reinvented Superman. It's fantastic, and all the acting is great, and this is just an amazing epic. Or do you think it was terrible? The changes just destroyed everything, and then DC screwed up again, and what a horrible start to this new cinematic universe. Or are you somewhere in between where I like seeing Superman punch some people and fly around and look cool, and I got my fill on that. And yeah, definitely, again, without going into spoilers, I would love to know what you think about the reveal with Superman's parents, because yeah, that was... I think you can talk about without going to spoilers. I feel like I did, so just, were you yay, were you nay, or you can go to another video it's going to talk about. I'm sure there's going to be videos talking about it, but definitely some spoiler videos talking about it. But yeah, because it's definitely worth discussion. Whether you're for it or against, it's definitely worth discussion. Let me know what you think. I'll see you next time. Take care.